Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the final webinar in our summer masterclass series pointed towards key topics at helping you better master your financial data. Today we're focusing on one of the hottest topics surrounding just about everything in the world today, and certainly the future of applications, and that would be the cloud. Everywhere we go, everywhere we look, it's all about we're in the cloud, we're starting with the cloud, we're migrating to the cloud. So naturally, it only makes sense that as a company focusing on software applications and analytics, that we also are able to accommodate our customers and future customers with their cloud applications. So introduction of today's episode. I've been lucky enough to be joined once again by one of the smartest people I know in this industry, Wouter Born, and certainly a great presenter and someone to speak with today, as he is, one of the founders of CXO and really the person behind the scenes creating our CXO cloud application. So from start to finish, he's a wealth of knowledge and will certainly be able to provide the right insight into CXO Cloud and what it can do with your organization. So a quick introduction of who we are and who we work with, and some of the customers that use people like CXO. So CXO, ultimately, we are a self-service platform for digital financial reporting and financial dashboarding. We were designed specifically to be controlled by the Office of Finance, and what that does is it really helps minimize the need for IT within the finance world. So IT can focus on their core functions, and finance can focus on their core functions. If you take a look at some of the list of who we work with, we were truly designed to be an enterprise application. You see McDonald's, Mercedes, that was the core focus of CXO as we've come to now. And ultimately what we've done is, as we started developing and producing these cloud applications and different applications within CXO, we've really enabled a much larger user base for CXO software and CXO cloud. And what we've done is by bringing this to the cloud, we're ultimately enabling companies of any size to utilize an application that was truly designed for enterprise functionality. So, smaller single instance ERP systems, mid-sized enterprises, and of course all the way up to your Fortune 500, Fortune 100 organizations are now fully enabled to use one of the best finance reporting and dashboarding solutions that's on the market. So on that note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Wouter Born and let him go into CXO and CXO Cloud and show you what it's all about. Wouter.
Thanks a lot, Brett. Thanks for your introduction. Let's have a look at the CXO Cloud. What are we talking about here? Well, first of all, CXO Cloud is a platform that allows you to tell a financial story. It enables organizations to build one of the best dashboards that they could imagine. So it's really all built about, how can I convey the story that we have within finance with the rest of the company. The cloud comes with, it's all out of the box, so you will not need any IT resources. It will be just plug and play, connecting to your either cloud application, or if you have on-premise, we can work with that data as well from on-premise financial systems. But it's really it's about bringing those dashboards to your end user without need for big IT projects. So it's very small and agile. You can start with a small group of people and explore immediately the benefits of all the features that are part of CXO software. Well, with the cloud, we use a whole stack of Microsoft technology to to actually give you features that you would expect from a modern cloud application. For our computing, we use Microsoft Azure, their web service layer. We store data in SQL Azure, which is one of the best database as a service platforms that are in the market. Both the data running in our own system, like all the report configuration, but also your financial data can be just stored in SQL Azure tables. And we offer also an additional layer on top of that. It's called Azure Analysis Services with the tabular technology. That's 100% in-memory technology that allows you to very quickly build analytical models on your financial data. So that's kind of the semantic layer that you would build up, and from there you can then easily build dashboards. We can integrate with your Azure Active Directory if you have one, or we can set up one for you, but that's the latest standard in terms of securing your application and make sure that you provision the users in the right way. Well, to what do we connect from our cloud? We have a whole range of native adapters to other cloud applications, and our native adapters focus mainly on the systems that are used by the CFO office. So tools like Oracle PBCS, Oracle FCCS for their consolidation product in the cloud, or Oracle Analytics Cloud, which is basically S-based in the cloud. We all have native adapters and connectors. We also can connect natively to OneStream, XF Cloud, and to IBM TM1, the Cognos TM1 Cloud. All these systems we could connect natively, meaning it's just a click and go, it all runs in the cloud. We could have this set up in hours, and you'd be good to start building dashboards. We can also connect to any other financial system using either our data warehouse adapter or our Azure Analysis Services, what I just mentioned. It's an in-memory database. It's native to the cloud. It's part of the whole Azure application stack. It's very easy to set up. And we've implemented this already at a couple of customers, and we've seen this is very easy to handle ERP data. So if you have data from your ERP systems, you can export all your financials, store it in our tables. We can build a quick analytical model on top of it. It will fully run in memory, and you can build dashboards on top of Azure Analysis Services. So these are the options that we have today. Like I mentioned, our data warehouse adapter is it's a platform that can handle Excel-based data or data stored in a data warehouse, and we can cube it within CXO. But it provides a whole web-based interface to create a model online within CXO, set your own data, metadata, and then upload Excel sheets with data to either provide your financials to the cloud or provide some additional supplemental data. Well, CXO software, it's one single platform, and I think one of the key things within CXO is we offer a lot of features. What you see here in these little bullets, stuff like collaboration. I will show something on that later in this webinar. Storytelling is a key aspect. I have a couple of slides on that. Narratives, so enabling a story behind the results. Write those in the narratives and combine this with your report, make that part of your financial story. We have a mobile user interface, which is the same interface as a web interface, but really optimized for mobile usage. It comes with a whole set of analytics features, and we're helping you to get compliant. And we do that with first of all a very good role-based security mechanism, but also by offering relevant audit trail statistics, kind of who accessed what at what time, who changed what to what information, or who wrote what narrative at what time, and what did he change to the narrative. So there's a very detailed audit trail for you available. All these things are going to be completely in the ownership of finance. And that's true for our on-premise solution, but it's even more true for our cloud solution, because we host the server for you. We own it's fully software as a service, so it's not server based, but it's you just get a URL with a web address which will be scaled to the number of users that you'll have. But from that point, actually the ownership is within finance. It's self-service, so people can build their own dashboards. I will show that a little later. And it's also, it can be fully designed and used, and reports can be distributed all within the finance function. And there's a lot of user-friendly, executive-friendly features in cxo. I think our implementations can be really short and agile. And just to give an example of that, we've done implementations of the whole product stack in 3-4 days at a customer, where we basically connect to their data, step one, train the team how to build dashboards, and then help them go live with the system. And that can be very short. So instead of a very lengthy big BI rollout, this is something you can start with a small group of users with a very short implementation. It's very low in risk and very high in value. So we have direct source connectivity to a number of leading EPM, CPM platforms. I just mentioned that. The solution offers a lot of financial intelligence. So it's built for finance. It understands that certain accounts have a different behavior than others. Like cost, you color your variances different than income account, or your assets and your liabilities, you treat them different. There's a lot of built-in variance reporting, traffic lighting, or financial charts like bridges, waterfalls, all these things that you would expect, and then fully enabled for multidimensional aggregated models. And that's really important, because when you're looking within finance, in the end you want to aggregate your data in a certain way, and these aggregations are normally not nice flat lists, but they are ragged hierarchies that represent how your organization looks like. And cxo can really handle these very well. And then last but not least, we give finance full self-service capabilities. And that means that finance can build new dashboards, can distribute dashboards, can assign who can see these dashboards or reports. But finance can also, like more in a power user view, people can build their own story in the tool. So they go into a number of reports or dashboards, they take a snapshot of that, make it a bookmark, and add it to a story, and then share that story with others. So there's also a different level of self-service, and that's more at the end user level. Well, let's have a look what, I mentioned financial storytelling a couple of times, but let's have a look what financial storytelling in the cloud could look like. And the data in my presentation here would come typically from a CPM system, but this could also come from an ERP system and maybe a separate load with your budget data. It could come from many different systems or from a CRM system, but let's just have a look on a best practice example of financial storytelling. Well, I think first of all, what we really emphasize is to make the story integrated, make an integrated story. And that means that if you have your P&L on your rows, so here we have an aggregated P&L with drill down options, so you can get into more detail, but the first level is aggregated. And we have something like gross sales to offer additional detail on gross sales. So what products sell better than others? So containing, for example, operational product sales data that could potentially come from a CRM system, all in one view. So an enriched P&L is important. And then what I mentioned before, the narrative, so the real story behind the numbers, is also really important. cxo allows you to enter this through a web-based UI. It's again very rich. It supports attachments, it supports images, but we also support consolidation of your commentary. So if the 3 regions that you see here, America, South America, and Europe, all wrote their commentary, their story behind the P&L, the user that's responsible for the corporate entity can just aggregate these comments and create his story out of the 3 subsidiaries. Another thing is to build dashboards that tell a story. In order to tell a story, you must make sure that the person who receives the story understands the story. We've seen so many dashboards with 40 columns and 300 rows and just big number crunch reports, and they're printed and sent out to 300 people every month, and you have no feedback if people understand what they're being sent, or it's basically just a data export out of a system. to tell a story would be something like, let's focus on return on assets. If that's a key KPI for this company or for this manager that receives this report, he would like to know why his return on assets are red. Red means you did not make your target, in this case the budget. Well, net return on assets comes from operating income divided by total assets. To zoom a little further on operating income, you see that the gross margin is actually positive, but the operating expenses, this company spent more and they made a little more than they expected. But that little more is actually very small. It's just 7%, while they made 11% more cost. So let's look on why this company didn't sell more. And there you see, or why the gross margin is not doesn't have like a bigger variance. You see that they're just behind on sales. Although the cost of goods sold was on target, their sales is behind target. So within a couple of simple steps, I can explain the relationship between KPIs, and the manager that is compensated on return on assets would really understand what he needs to influence to make that number next time. In the end, it's always sell more. It's probably in every business, it's a solution. Let's look at something else that is kind of the contrary of sell more. I think it's a very practical, interesting example, where we're looking at a company here that has 4 regions: USA, Europe, South America, and Asia. And they use a bridge visualization to go from budget to actual, to understand where the biggest variances are made. And although they knew that USA is a little behind targets, they did not expect that from Europe. Corporate-wise, they thought, Europe is doing really well. They got only positive forecast. And all of a sudden, final data is ready in the system and this is red. So the person who builds this story can now choose to make a split here and take the FX impact, because in Europe, we have different currencies than in the USA. So by extracting the FX impact, you can actually see that Europe was on target, but it was caused by a negative FX impact. If you go a step further and we zoom into the FX impact and into the 3 different regions in Europe, you see it's caused by the UK. And although UK has a positive variance, they have a very big FX impact, and that was just in the year of the Brexit. So in their budgets, they did not calculate the effect on the British pound. The British pound dropped through the Brexit, but that was not part of their budget. So that explains why they are behind, but their operational result was actually positive. So within 3 steps, if you make this part of your story, you can really explain what happened. Well, the next thing is flux reporting, it's explaining variances. I think every public company has to deliver a flux report, and it explains on your key accounts if you're beyond a certain threshold. You need to explain why that is. Well, this dashboard, it's a great example used by one of our customers, and it actually only shows colors where that threshold is exceeded. Whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't matter. It's 15% in this case. You have to enter a narrative. So to guide the user with that narrative, we created a drill report. So if I would click here on variance comments, or I think it was the second column, it creates for me a ranked list with all my base level accounts that will show the biggest variance on top and the smallest variance on bottom, but it leaves everything out that is in that is within the plus or negative -15 range. So I know that on all these lines I need to specify what happened, and then they will all pop up in this report as well. So this is kind of a user workflow, how to enter the right comments on the right cells. Well, another best practice I think today is to use the immense amount of computing power that we have today that's available for us, to use predictive analytics within dashboards. I think we have to be realistic as well. This is finance, so finance data, there's a lot of choices you make, whether to do things in a certain way. It's not always predictable, but there are things that are predictable, like sales, for example. There is a strong seasonal trend in this example. It's actually the P&L of a software company. So we're looking at net software licenses. and there's a strong quarterly last quarter trend. Although I can't really see it from here, I do see that it predicts a fourth quarter increase, and it does that again in the year after, but I can't really see it. So there is a drill here in USA. If I click on USA, it brings me to a next level of a report that allows me to zoom in much deeper into that same chart. Well, first of all, what you see, I think there are a couple of things interesting on this chart. The red and the green are used in a very efficient way. So it only shows green where you did more than your budget. The gray area is the budget, and the green is actually the difference between your actuals and your budget. So this is where you overscored. While the red is only that part of your budget you did not make. So you actually only focus on your variance within this chart on where it really made impact. It's not overusing coloring, it's very clean and it's very efficient to see. Another thing, if you see in the previous chart, we just saw these fourth quarter bumps, we couldn't see where that really came from. So we take a couple of years more of history in this dashboard, and now you all of a sudden see that there is there is actually that seasonal trend. You also see, and I guess it's normal for every software company. Today we're having a cloud webinar. I think it's a great example. Once you move business to the cloud, your on-premise software licenses will go down over time. So you see that trend going down over the years. So the total software on-premise software licenses go down, and the cloud software licenses will probably go up if you would put that in the same chart. The next thing, and that's a great feature of CXO, is that you can collaborate with other CXO users. So I can drill into this chart and get a very specific view and share that view with someone in the company. Well, in this case, you see that the budget is not showing that increase. So our 2017 budget and the 2018 budget is not counting an increase, which we can clearly see from our predictive analytics. We can clearly see this happening. So in this case, the corporate controller, John Smith, sends a quick note to the person whom it's Jose Garcia. He made this budget. So he says, could you please check why our 2018 plan is not reflecting the expected Q4 sales increase? And this person is immediately going to work on it. So they've put an action within the tool. This is documented as a conversation between two people. So only these two people can access it within the tool, but it belongs to a frozen view on a report. Although it's fully dynamic, it will always open up on the view how this was bookmarked. So it's a very efficient way of analyzing something together and make it more a collaborative process. Well, I think in the end, the story about storytelling is to select a proper analysis that really contribute to your story. Well, we saw some examples, best practices of real meaningful analysis. I think the next step is to enrich your analysis with commentary. Tell the story behind your numbers. Don't write again what was already in the numbers, but it's probably much more important to tell there was a certain strike or there was a new team that still has to perform. There are normally other reasons why data is behind the target, and it's not always that easy to understand from the person who would receive a story if they don't receive the context behind the story. And then the third step is actually build that story with a couple of logical steps. So put them into a certain order, put your analysts that you've created with the narratives, put that in an order, and share that story in a digital way. And all that process CXO can handle that for you. So digital reporting, get away from your Excel-based or PDF-based report deck, something you print now every month. You can do this fully digital and use the same processes like books, your reporting book. We could fully do this, but then online and in the cloud today. Well, that leaves me some time to go into a demo. I'd like to address the self-service aspect of CXO. But I'll show a little bit of the tool in general. So let me move to a web browser. So CXO software runs in a web browser, any web browser basically, any modern web browser. But we also have native apps for iOS and Android. But they will also, use the same web technology as we're using, but embed that within the app. And that has the biggest benefit is that you only develop a report once. And I'll show that during my self-service demo what that really means. But our reports are all optimized to be shown on different devices. They can be shown on an iPad or a phone even, if you want. Well, after logging in, I go to a homepage, and the homepage can be any page. You can define individual homepages for different users. For your CFO, make sure he has his 6 most important KPIs combined with maybe a list of key KPIs, actual to budget with a variance. These dashboards are highly customizable. We also have a whole series of out-of-the-box dashboards that will help you to create quickly best practice dashboards. Let me have a look at one of those, and then we'll go into the self-service aspect of it as well. So I'm going to the group profit and loss here, and I'll do 2 things. First, I will show you how this would work for a regular end user, because there is already a self-service aspect to the regular end user, because any user can just open this dashboard, and if they would like to know how the data was previous year, or let's go a little closer home, previous period, they can just change the point of view and see how it was previous period, including the commentary that was written previous period. Well, there wasn't any commentary, but if there would have been, it would have been shown here. They can change their different entities to have a look at different regions. So I want to see the dashboard just for Europe. They would just select Europe. So that's one aspect of self-service. Also, a regular end user can build these stories that I just talked about, so they can create their own digital books by just putting this dashboard as part of a book. So snapshotting a certain report, putting it in a book, and build up your story from there. So that's the first level of self-service. What also part of that first level is further exploration of data. So I can go into gross sales, or maybe let's go into gross margin, and maybe I want to drill, get a little more detail about direct cost, or maybe our professional services. So explore that P&L. But if I'm emphasizing gross margin, what I do here, by clicking on that line, I see that the chart next to it aligns nicely with gross margin. And I see a 12-month trend of just gross margin actual to budget. If I want to zoom into the last 3 months, I just hover over it and really understand how my last 3 months gross margin was performing actual to budget. And you see that, besides August, the other months I'm doing a lot better. Zoom out again, and now I can go even further. I can see, okay, my gross margin by product. So you would see, the individual products with the arrows, colored arrows, showing whether this is a good or negative trend. So within a couple of clicks, I can really go into a lot of detail. And if I don't want to do this by product, I could see my different regions, for example, here, and drill on, on the sub-regions, even the individual sales offices of this organization. So very quickly, I can compare actual to budget. If I don't want to compare actual to budget, but to my latest forecast, one click and the whole report, all the reference categories everywhere are going to be actual to forecast. So that's all part of the self-service mechanism. The second level of self-service that's available on CXO, and that's more for the true power users or administrators, but it's still fully within finance, is our designer. So the CXO designer allows you to build new dashboards and modify existing dashboards. So let's open that same report that I had here a second ago. Let me close the report navigation. What I said before is that everything is built to run on desktop, on a desktop browser, or on an iPad, for example, so you can view how it would look on an iPad, or even on a phone. I can already preview that here within this client. You'll see that we always try to compress all the data, so it's easy viewable on a smaller device. And I guess that's what you see here. We've put all the charts and the tables all in one single column, so you only have to scroll top down. If you want to select a different year, for example, you'll see the buttons will become easy to use, and if you want to click 2016 with your finger on a phone, that's really easy if it's a big thing, and navigation will be full screen. Okay, let me move back to the desktop, and let's take a look at the self-service aspect of this, because in the end we're looking at a ready-built dashboard. But what would it mean if we want to change something? Well, I will go to the contents, and in the contents of this dashboard, I have the option to both change my rows of this report, or change the reference categories, or maybe change the trend chart on the right side. But this allows me to actually define how my P&L looks like. So I have the gross margin account here, and I'd like to include a gross margin percentage to this report. I'll show you in a couple of simple steps how this is done. So I'm going to add a new item here at the bottom. I will call it gross margin percentage. And I'm going to specify a formula that will calculate my gross margin percentage. Well, gross margin percentage is a ratio formula. It's part of it. As you will see, we have many different formulas, like you're probably used to in Excel. The ones that make sense for financial reporting are there. If I want to calculate a ratio, I want net gross margin as percentage of net sales. And as you can see now in my line, gross margin percentage shows as a 0, and it shows 0.36. And that's not what we want, because this report is in thousands. I would never see such a small amount. So what I can actually do is go to the format of this line and say I would like to format this as a percentage format. So we have a lot of out-of-the-box formats here. You can also create new ones on the fly, but let me actually take %1. %1 means it's shown as a percentage and 1 digit behind the comma. So it's showing now at 36.4. Last thing I want to do is I want to have this just behind the line of gross margin. So I can just drag the line up here to gross margin. And you'll see all the time, every change I make, it's immediately reflected here in the preview. So I can immediately see what I'm doing, and I can actually go back to this report. I can leave the designer and have this report immediately available to me or to others. I could publish this report to other people, and then they will get it in their menu structure. So it will be just part of, in this case, it's part of the P&L. So it will be just part of their menu structure as well. The whole role-based security works with user groups, so you can actually assign these reports to a whole group of users at one time. And probably the last thing what you can do as an end user, what I haven't shown, is add this report to a storyboard. Storyboards are digital books, like what I showed before. Well, we have a demo monthly reporting pack. I would like to add my profit and loss, my group P&L, to this storyboard. It's just one click, basically. You hit add to storyboard. It's almost like a favorite, a bookmark icon. So it's kind of what it is. I'm going to add this to monthly reporting pack. I want to insert it as a first page. I could give it even a page note, but I'm not going to do that. It's more for if you use this for management presentations, you can include page notes, like you can do that in PowerPoint as well. And if I now go to my storyboard, you will see that it has become part of the storyboard, the first page in here. If I would like to share this storyboard with someone else, I can actually say, okay, share, and select another user. Maybe Jose Garcia. I would like to make him a viewer, or like to make him an editor or an owner. So he's an editor. He can still change the content of the storyboard, but I can do several things with the storyboard. I can play it. I'll do that in a second. I can also export this storyboard to a static format. So it can be either an Excel file, it can be a PDF, or a PowerPoint presentation. So that way you can easily share many of these dashboards with a whole community outside of CXO software. So you can share this with other people in the company by taking exports. Probably the richest way of walking through a storyboard like this is just play it on the screen, and it kind of behaves like it would be a normal PowerPoint deck, because it has a next kind of navigation through it. And normally this is always lightning fast. It takes a little longer today. It must be the network. So let me play this storyboard. You'll see an additional navigation toolbar here on top that allows me just to walk through it. So this is the page we just added to it. We would go through a waterfall. Maybe that flux report that I showed before, etc. So within a couple of steps, you actually walk through a storyboard as if it was a presentation, including the narratives and any other enrichment that you've made to this report. It's still fully active. That's the benefit of not exporting it to a PDF. You can still click on lines here, for example, and I see my pie chart with the different regions changing according the line that I've clicked. So you can answer instant questions during a management meeting if this would be your presentation that you've prepared for a management meeting. Well, I want to leave some time for questions. This is kind of a high-level overview I want to share with you. We can always follow up with more with more information if you have if you'd like to see more. The product has a lot of more features that I haven't shown today, so we're happy to follow up. Brett, are we having any questions?
Yeah. So and just as a quick reminder, if you do have any questions, there's a little question box in the bottom there. Just click that little box and send a question over real quick if you do have any. But to start, there are two here that they seem to be very instance specific, and if you don't mind, I'm going to reach out directly to you regarding those. But we can jump to this one. Does this only work with other cloud systems?
I think that's an interesting question. So cxo Cloud has been designed for cloud-to-cloud connectivity. I think if you have your CPM product, which is the primary data source for CXO on-premise, I think we would like to connect live to that, and we would recommend you to go with an on-premise setup. But we can use cxo Cloud with our tabular modeling layer as a cloud that you can use to actually upload your data to. And this is what we've done successfully at some of our customers. For example, one customer is using a Sage ERP system. They've automated an extract out of Sage directly into our Azure Analysis Services model. It's a simple button click or something that's scheduled, and that way we can actually deal with on-premise data in a cloud dashboard. And I think that's a very interesting use case. You can get started as soon as you have a set of financial data. We can work with it, and all the features would be available.
Okay, cool. Next one here, is this a subscription price? Okay, so I get, yes, basic pricing model for CXO Cloud.
Yeah, I think we've chosen a very clear and transparent pricing model here. I'm happy to share it. It's going to be $150 per user per month with a minimum of 10. So you can run this whole platform for as low as $1,500 a month with all the features available. You can create your digital books. You can export them to PDFs. And I think that's a low cost to run a platform like this, especially if you compare it to some other tooling in the market.
Okay, and there's I think a follow-up to that one. The users in CXO Cloud. What are there different types of? Sorry, I'm trying to read out this little box. Are there different types of users?
No, well, there are different types of users. We have 4 different types of users in CXO. There are light users, there are regular named users, there are report creators, kind of a power user, and then we have administrators. But in our cloud pricing model, in our licensing model, there's just a user price. So you can make them all 10 administrators, or you can make them all 10 light users, whatever you want. But if you buy 10 users, you can choose any kind of user that you would like to use.
Perfect. All right. Well, that sounds great. And as I mentioned, there's these other two here. I will reach out directly. But yeah, that should wrap everything up. So I definitely want to say thank you to everyone who joined us and supported us through this summer webinar series. Soon we will be coming out and announcing the fall webinar series. So this was seemed to be quite a popular masterclass, and we were certainly happy to convey the information and expertise that we have when it comes to digital reporting, financial dashboards, both on-premise and the cloud. So we will be coming out with the fall series starting in, I believe, October, and we will be addressing another set of either 4 or 5 key topics moving forward to that towards the end of the year. So again, thank you very much to everybody who joined us, and keep an eye out for our announcement for the fall series. And we certainly look forward to hopefully speaking with everyone again in the near future and seeing you again in our fall series. So with that, thanks again, everyone, and you guys have a great day.